Okay, let's talk about Michigan, ladies and gentlemen, because Michigan is still a fiasco. Just in case you didn't know, Michigan is a fiasco. So I think that we have basically two people consistently harping on Michigan, me and Steven Crowder. There's probably some local people in Michigan in over the air on radio and television. They're talking about it, but I'm not aware of them. Just like Steven Crowder's not aware of me and is pretending that he's the only one covering Michigan. So anyway, Pulitzer-winning journalist is suing Michigan, actually suing Governor Whitmer over the nursing home death data. Now, when was the last time we covered this last week? Thursday or Friday? I went into great detail about Gretchen Whitmer versus Cuomo. When was the last time that we had a governor actively hide nursing home death data? When was the last? That's right. Governor Cuomo. And what ended up happening there? Oh, we found out that he had been cutting the nursing home deaths actually in half and hiding it from everybody. And his reasoning for hiding it from everybody is that I thought they were going to use the data against me. I mean, that's a whale of a justification, right? Hey, why didn't you give us the murder weapon when we arrested you for murder? Well, I didn't want you to use it against me. It's such a stupid argument, but that's what Cuomo said. So anyway, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Charlie LaDuff says that he is pursuing a lawsuit against Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer to gain access to data about nursing home deaths in the state. Now, they've been hiding this from everybody. Congress, U.S. Congress, actually tried to get this data, and she didn't turn it over. What is she hiding? You know darn well what she's hiding. I know what she's hiding. Chances are even liberals and leftists listening to the show right now know full well what she's hiding. And people think that my video did the Democrats use COVID as a death panel. People think that was controversial. But honestly, their behavior is making me think that I was right more and more. The Whitmer administration has not fulfilled my request or our request on the No Bleep News Hour for COVID death data. Never heard of this, but sounds cool. Like the name. For COVID death data that may shed light on the true extent of the nursing home devastation. This, in my opinion, is a violation of state law, and more so, and this is not an opinion, it is a danger and a disservice to our institutionalized elders who have borne the brunt of the suffering and continue to bear it. That's what LaDuff said on his program recently. Now, I have not heard the program, but I have to tune in on this. This is pretty cool. So Steve DeLay, the lead policy lawyer on transparency and open government in August, and well-regarded Mackinac Center think tank here in Michigan, they have agreed to take our case to sue the Whitmer administration for the death data in these nursing homes, LaDuff said. Good. Now, again, this is where you can easily spot if you have confirmation bias or tribalism, right? And this is mostly directed at you liberals out there for just a second. I just want you to bear with me, okay? What logical reason would a governor of a state have for not releasing data on nursing home deaths during COVID? What logical reason would there be for that? Now, if you have one, let me know. Maybe I haven't thought of it. Now, for the most part, I'm a pretty open government type guy. I want as much information available to the public that's not classified as possible. And I would actually like some of the classification rules to be reformed as well. But, there are people who want everything open, and those people are wrong. And there are people who want nothing open, usually because they're criminals themselves and they're covering up their own crimes. So those people are wrong. But ask yourself a very basic question here. What logical reason does a governor of a state have to hide COVID data from the public? I'm just saying. If there's any legitimate reason for that, you let me know. I'll be happy. Call Joe right now. Tell Joe I'm wrong. This is a legitimate reason. to keep the data secret from the public and from the media and from Congress, the House of Representatives. They kept the data secret from the House of Representatives. Because the last time we had that happen, it turns out that the governor of the state was committing horrendous crimes and he was covering his backside. Now, considering all of the times we have caught Gretchen Whitmer breaking the rules and lying to all of you in order to cover it up with those leaked emails that have been happening since the beginning of her administration, considering how many times that has happened, call me crazy. My default now is that she's covering her own backside. She's hiding something from you because she knows she's wrong, and if it comes out, she's in big trouble. And make no mistake, she's going to try and hide this until long after re-election happens. She doesn't want anybody to see this stuff before she's up for re-election. No way. You kidding me? Because it's going to be very bad for her. She has been so awful throughout this pandemic. And there are just these little fanboys and girls out there who don't know anything about any of the data or anything available. Oh, here, my live stream, I apologize. I'm going to have to get that... there's a giant, like, blow-up picture of her face, and she's got a really weird, creepy grin on it. So I got to make sure I get that off of the screen for my live stream people. But then we run into this. This is an interesting article here. This is in Newsmax.com. Whitmer's Cuomo problem, nursing homes. 8 state senators in Michigan are pushing for an investigation into Governor Gretchen Whitmer's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic in the state nursing homes, according to the Daily Caller. The move comes as the FBI and federal prosecutors are investigating New York Governor Andrew Cuomo's coronavirus task force with a particular focus on his administration's handling of nursing homes early in the pandemic. And something else about the Cuomo situation, we already had federal authorities investigating the nursing home policy before we found the data that he had been lying to everybody about total nursing home deaths. So they were already investigating. Now, for those of you who don't know, I have to reiterate one more time, the reason it's being investigated is because it was against official guidance to put sick people in nursing homes at the time, and they did it anyway. Some lawmakers have called for Cuomo's resignation after one of his top aides privately apologized to Democrat lawmakers for withholding the state's nursing home death toll from COVID-19. And again, what she said is there are too many similarities between what happened. That's not what she said. This is Senator Jim Runestad in Michigan. There are too many similarities between what happened in New York and what's happened here in Michigan not to open an investigation. The families who lost loved ones deserve to know what happened and to get justice. Now that's Michigan State Senator, again, Jim Runestad. The reason it's the same, now I always have to remind everybody, go back to the beginning of the pandemic, all right? So just, we're sitting in February, March, looking at that time right there, right? It was right about that time we started to see that she didn't really know what she was going to do when it came to the pandemic. And as the lockdown started happening and everything else, we started to see pretty quickly she was in over her head, right? And for those of you who don't acknowledge that, your gaslighting is not doing you any favors here. And I don't hold it against her that she didn't really know what she was doing and that she was in over her head. First of all, I've said that about everybody. We have not dealt with a pandemic in our lifetime. Just that, except for like the 2 of you who are still alive during the Spanish flu thing. But we have not dealt with a pandemic like this, okay? So everybody's kind of learning on the job. But she was also learning how to be a governor. And instead of relying on people with that bureaucratic know-how, she tried to do everything herself, and she didn't know what she was doing. So then she started blaming Trump for not getting aid packages and supplies and things of that nature from Trump. And Trump had to point out she never filled out the requests to get them. I can't just send things to the states without them actually filling out the FEMA requests. And she hadn't filled out the paperwork. Now, this is a problem that people in South Bend are very familiar with because South Bend government loves to say that something is going to happen and then forgets to file the paperwork. That is something that happens in South Bend all the time. But for those of you in Michigan, this was the beginning of the pandemic. We kind of talked about it. She was doing everything she could to throw Trump under the bus, but in fact, it was her. She wasn't doing what she was supposed to do. And it's because she didn't know she had to do it. Now, it was right about that time when it got exposed and she had a couple of really big scandals show up right about that time, we started to realize she just looked to Cuomo, and she was copying everything that Governor Cuomo in New York was doing, which is why Michigan State Senator Jim Runestad, and I'm sure that he's aware of this, which is why what happened in Michigan looks so similar to what happened in New York. It is because she literally copied Cuomo. But then things quickly got out of hand, and in many cases became what most people assume worse in Michigan. She started taking young sick people and putting young sick people in nursing homes too. Start running into some real issues there. At a time when we knew how dangerous the virus was to our seniors, the Whitmer administration ignored advice from medical experts, true, and the nursing home industry, true, and put COVID patients into nursing homes with their most vulnerable people, true. She even got called out on this by the Democratic Party. I should say members of the Democratic Party. As far as I know, the Michigan Democratic Party never officially chastised her. Whitmer and Cuomo both exposed nursing home residents to COVID-19. True, columnist for the Detroit Free Press has also called for an investigation into the nursing home tragedy. More than 5,500 of the state's roughly 14,500 deaths due to COVID are attributed to residents of long-term care facilities. That is a number that most people assume is lowballed quite a bit. So, you've got an award-winning journalist who's now suing for access to that data after Michigan has denied access to that data for everybody, the public, the federal government, that sort of stuff. They're actively hiding it. So a journalist has now filed a lawsuit in order to get access to that data. You've got state senators in Michigan finally doing their job, trying what they can to get access to that data. But again, I come back to this very basic point because I know there's so many of you Whitler fanboys and girls out there. She can do no wrong. After all, Politico said nobody in Lansing doesn't like her. What is the legitimate reason that she would withhold that data from not just the public when all of the other data is publicly available, but what is a legitimate reason that she would withhold that from federal government, even now, under Biden, from federal government, from state government, and from the media? What is the reason that she would want to withhold that data? Other than it's going to blow back on her and not be very good for her. Like I said, just put your stupid tribalism aside for just a second. Okay? Take off the Democrat hat for just a second. Whatever mental gymnastics you have to do in your own head to convince yourself that Gretchen Whitmer did nothing wrong, stop it right now and just ask that basic question. If it's not a big deal and she did nothing wrong, why has she been actively hiding it for months? More coming up. 95.3 MNC.
Casey Hendrickson.
News Talk 95.3 Michigan.